Well, welcome back to the front page. I am Dara Star Tucker, and we are talking today with, I'll call her a political maven, Miss Jess Craven, who the political maven, Jess Craven. Hey, I
I
think
love it.
that's a nickname for you. Jess Craven, political maven. She is here to get us up to speed on a lot of the political issues that we may be missing out on. We talked a little bit earlier about Prop 50 and why we both feel that folks should be voting yes on that. If you have your ballot that has already been delivered, be sure to get that in ASAP. Those are due when, Jess, by the way? The ballots are due when?
Well, November 4th is the final day to vote, but I would like to put in a little plug for voting early. It actually really helps the Yes campaign. As good, reliable voters come off the voter rolls because they've turned in their ballots, it enables volunteers to focus on the people who are a little harder to turn out. So if you are a Yes voter, really, regardless of what your vote is, it's really good to vote early, but I hope you vote yes. And early helps a lot.
Yeah. And how is it look? How is the polling looking? I mean, I know we shouldn't rely too heavily on polling. Sometimes we can get a little bit overconfident in that, but how is it looking thus far? I'm getting really concerned because I don't really watch a lot of television or see a lot of commercials, but I'm hearing that these, these confusing ads have really been playing with, and there has been tons of money, like tens of millions of dollars pumped into trying to fight this. What's the polling looking like so far?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard some polling, which makes it sound like I've heard everything from very ahead. I mostly have heard it's very close and that we might be up like by a point.
Oh, wow.
I don't think that they do a lot of polling on ballot measures, but I think it's going to be close. It is true that Republicans, particularly one Republican billionaire, has spent, he's put $30 million in, and it's
Wow.
gonna, they will spend probably around $150 million
Oh,
on this. This is out of state billionaires literally trying to buy the midterms for Donald Trump, which, if you're still on the fence about Prop 50, just know that that's who's paying for the ads. It isn't even California residents, and it is not small dollar donors. Those are all giving to the yes on Prop 50 campaign. So yeah, it's very heavily funded, although I did just hear that Democrats are now outspending Republicans. I mean, this is the other thing that drives me crazy is how much money
hmm.
will be spent on this election when people are can't pay for their health care.
Yeah.
It can't pay for their groceries. I was actually looking because, as you probably know, if you filled out your ballot, this is the only thing on the ballot in
Mm.
California this November. I filled mine out. It's one question, yes or no on 50. There's nothing else on it. Think of the cost
Hmm.
to have this election, to send a ballot to every registered voter in the state,
Hmm.
to pay for postage because you don't have to put a stamp on your ballot. That's all covered. All of the ads, all of the effort, all of the volunteer energy that could be being put into races in New Jersey or Virginia or Pennsylvania, where we have really important Supreme Court races. And instead, we're doing this. I don't want to wax too partisan, but anything that makes us scramble and throw more money into politics needlessly, I find so upsetting and objectionable. And I do encourage people to sort of ask themselves, like, who is behind this and why are they doing it? Because this is not the way a democracy should be. This is money that real people could use for really important things. And instead, it's just all getting thrown into trying to level the playing field because Donald Trump wants to rig the game. And that's to me is really the most outrageous thing about this.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons that campaign finance is one of the most important issues. If issues around campaign finance reform come through and you have the chance to weigh in on that, never underestimate how important it is. We had a decision called Citizens United that happened in what, 2012, Jess, that
Yeah.
completely changed the playing field where campaign contributions are concerned and basically allowed corporations to contribute unlimited amounts of money to political campaigns. It's gotten worse and worse. I remember when I was like first entering, I was first getting to the age where I was eligible to vote, and like campaign finance with McCain and Feingold and all of that stuff. It was center of mind for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And people were, Joe Lieberman and people like that were talking about campaign finance reform all the time. They understood this was a big issue. And now it's just gotten so out of control
Yeah.
because, we have not paid the proper attention to it that we should. And
Yeah.
this is not normal. As you'll hear repeated again and again, this is not normal, nor should it be. We're talking today with Jess Craven, who is a political content creator. She is the author of Chop Wood, Carry Water, Daily Actions on Substack, and the co-host of the Practivist Pod. Her goal is to help average Americans become more engaged in the political process and to help elect more progressive lawmakers everywhere. So she's helping us to parse out kind of where we are right now on the political landscape, helping us to, sort through some issues, because as I keep saying, when these headlines are being thrown at us so quickly, we're just overwhelmed. We're inundated. We really don't know what to pay attention to. And that's not a good state to be in. It is very intentional on the part of this administration to keep you overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And feeling like you really want to disengage because it's not really worth paying attention to. So we're here every day on the front page to help you to parse through these issues in ways that will not overwhelm you, hopefully. And Jess Craven, you can find her online at Jess Craven 101. And that's part of what she does. She helps you to feel that, okay, she comes on and it's like this, almost like this very motherly kind of tone, like, hey, look, this is what's going on. This is what it means, and her videos are not too long. It's not too overwhelming. So highly recommending that you follow Jess Craven on whatever platform that you are on. Are you on Facebook, Jess?
I am actually. I am. I just got on it recently. So I have a Facebook page at Jess Craven 101 as well.
Okay, wonderful. I tell people don't underestimate Facebook. Folks are still over there. And I'm glad to know that you're there. So Jess Craven 101. Well, I asked before, Jess, before we went to the break, if you could talk some about this Dominion voting machine issue. Now, we all remember the Dominion voting machines that were being talked about all the time when Trump was attempting to contest the results of the 2020 election. And supposedly Dominion was, flipping votes and changing things over. Then they ended up suing a bunch of people. They ended up suing Fox News and a bunch of people who were spreading these lies that somehow their machines had changed the results of the election. Well, now there is an organization that has bought up, there's a company that has bought up Dominion voting machines, and they are a conservative company that is very much pro-Trump. How concerned should we be about this?
Well, I mean, it's concerning. It definitely is. So, it's not my full area of expertise. I tend to separate things into, to be honest with you, Dara, things I can do something about and things I can't do anything about. So I am worried about that. I don't know exactly what the call to action is there yet, except that for me, it always comes back to winning elections and winning at least one chamber in Congress so that we can have oversight over things like this. And so that Republicans cannot pass any more anti-voting legislation. So that at least Democrats, for example, could call in the new owners of this company and say, like, what are you doing? What are your intentions? We want to see your records. Remember that if you have the majority, you have subpoena power, so that committee hearings really get some teeth, because you can actually subpoena people, bring them in, subpoena their records. And so I don't mean to keep bringing it back to elections, but it really is one of the best things we can do is win the midterms next year so that we have some protections. And as far as voting machines go, I don't like to sow distrust in our electoral system. It is definitely was not news I liked to hear. I think that there's going to have to be more research into what that means and what their motives are. But right now, I don't know what more we can do about it except for stay informed and then focus on the things we can control, which again are like winning elections, and even in the nearer term, really trying to win this healthcare fight, this shutdown healthcare fight, because that is something that we can control and really need to win if we want to keep affordable health care. So I don't mean to deflect from the question, but it's very alarming.
Yeah.
Because I think about politics literally not only when I'm awake, but really when I'm sleeping every day. I try to put things in buckets of you have inboxes and outboxes on your desk in the old movies. That is in an inbox that I will deal with later mentally, because I don't know what we can do about that right now.
Yeah.
But rest assured, if I do know, I will be screaming it from the rooftops. But It's definitely something we can talk to our lawmakers about, and we should. I'm
Yeah.
worried about this. I want to know what you're doing to make sure that we can trust this company.
Yeah. The company is called Liberty Vote, by the way. So yeah, we'll keep an eye out and an ear out for
Okay.
that. It's something that definitely caught my eye when I saw it. Well, what I want to ask you, Jess, is what the issues that you do feel that we can invest in and do something about right now. We had this activist, Dr. Zachary Kirk, on yesterday, who I know that you're a mutual of as well. And we talked about the shutdown and kind of really got into the nuts and bolts of what this is all about. Because again, a lot of disinformation being put out there about exactly what this is about. And, the idea that Democrats are supposedly holding out so that illegal immigrants or undocumented immigrants can have health care, really refuting that, was a lot of what we did yesterday. So can
Good.
you let us know what's on your radar? What's in the immediate vicinity for you? What are the issues that we should really primarily be focused on right now?
Okay. Well, I'm glad you guys talked about that because it is so very important for people to understand that, like, the whole giving health insurance to undocumented people it's really like a blatant falsehood.
Hmm.
And so we're again kind of in this world where politicians are now willing to just flat out lie. And that's challenging because it used to be that they at least tried to sort of skim around the truth. And now
Hmm.
it's just like there's no truth to that.
Hmm.
And yet they're just saying it. So it's tricky because you have to say, like, argue with lies, which is always hard to do. I do think that this healthcare fight, taking it away from the shutdown, although you can't really separate it from the shutdown because this is, again, the only leverage Democrats have right now is you need our 7 votes to pass this budget. We are not going to give you 7 votes while you are cutting off subsidies for 23 million Americans who are not going to be able to afford their health care.
Hmm.
When you spent 10 times as much, and that is the literal amount, 10 times as much giving tax cuts to the wealthiest people in the country.
Hmm.
That's how much those tax cuts cost. 10 times as much as permanently extending these ACA premium tax credits. And I do think that healthcare is going to be the big thing in the next year. I think we are nearing I don't want to say a collapse of our healthcare system, but I don't think anybody is under any illusions about our healthcare system. It's wildly expensive. Doctors are discouraged. Nurses are discouraged. Hospitals are short-staffed. We have 500 rural hospitals that are on the verge of shutting down. When these Medicaid cuts start to hit, it is very likely that we will lose hundreds of rural hospitals. We've got premiums going up. There's a real danger that our healthcare system starts to go into kind of a free fall. And so what I would like to see, and we've got nutritional problems, we have prices going up, there's a real housing crisis that unfortunately this administration has not proposed any actual remedy to. And so what I'm really focused on are these nuts and bolts, I don't know, people used to call them kitchen table problems, but like the actual things that people lie in bed at night worrying about. These things are real. These are the things that people want to hear politicians talking about and solving, right? How am I going to afford my health care? We know these premiums, if these tax credits don't get extended, people are looking at an average of 114% increase in their bills. That is unthinkable for most Americans, right? So I would really love to see people coming together and sort of starting to go. And James Tallarico, who's this wonderful candidate in Texas for Senate, he talks about this a lot. Instead of fighting left to right, fighting top to bottom, like fighting the billionaires above us who every problem we're facing right now sort of comes down to the fact that the billionaires have gotten so insulated. They have so much money. Income inequality has gotten so huge that they just really, all they want is to keep their money. And that means that we are losing program after program after program. Unemployment is going up. Black unemployment, we just read this week, is going up significantly and dramatically,
Yeah.
which is obviously in and of itself a terrible thing and is also a harbinger of worse things for the economy writ large. So I want to focus on the economy, on getting prices down, on getting healthcare costs down, on really fighting for policies that will help Americans, will help farmers, even people who voted for Trump, who are now going, oh my God, this was a huge mistake, because There are people who voted for Trump because whatever, okay, I will try to be somewhat nonpartisan in this statement, but there are a lot of people who voted for Trump because he promised to bring prices down on day one. Obviously, that's not happening. So, what if we all stopped fighting with each other, stopped blaming each other for, we're in this situation because XYZ, and just started to say, if we all come together, it is time for us to take on the billionaire class and
Yeah.
the oligarchs who want to take everything away from us, including healthcare.
Hmm.
And so those are the things I'm really focused on because I think that if we can get that kind of movement going, we're seeing it a little bit in New York with Zoran Mamdani. We're seeing it with the popularity of politicians who talk about these things with meaningful, solutions. People get excited. This is what people want to see. So I think it's important that we keep bringing it back to that. And you talked about how Trump, this administration it's very overwhelming and people want to check out. And that's what, unfortunately, I believe the billionaire class wants us to do. They
Hmm.
want us to check out because then they just get more and more
Right.
of money. Like they keep profiting off of this system. So my main thing is to encourage people. I know it feels really overwhelming and it is discouraging. And so many people are working 2 and 3 gigs just to keep going. But any small way you can stay engaged, if it's just calling your representatives and telling them about your struggles with healthcare or rent or whatever, maybe running for office, maybe attending the No Kings protests on Saturday, which are such an important way to stand up together
Hmm.
and just say, we want solutions in this country. We don't want to be divided. We want to solve our problems. All of these things really do matter. They really do.
Yeah, we're talking today with Jess Craven, who is a political content creator. She's the author of Chop Wood, Carry Water, Daily Actions on Substack and the co-host of the Practivist Pod. Her goal is to help average Americans become more engaged in the political process and to help elect more progressive lawmakers everywhere. You can find her online at Jess Craven 101 on all social media platforms, on Instagram, where I follow her, TikTok, Facebook, anywhere that you can find anyone online. You can find Jess Craven at Jess Craven 101. And she's one of those people, you guys, who when she talks about practical actions and how we can stay engaged, she's someone who will literally pick up her phone on a video and she will call her representative on on video and walk you through it. She will guide you through that process that sometimes can feel a little bit intimidating. It's like, well, call your representative. Oh God, I don't know what that means. That's
Right.
something that
Yeah.
other people do, but she makes it real and she makes it really actionable, I think, for people to get involved in small ways. And it doesn't really necessarily have to be like you're giving your entire life over to this thing. It's just if a lot of people are engaged, even at that level of just knowing how to pick up the phone and or go online and write your representative. She gives you I don't want to say like templates that you can use to write your representative. If there's a specific issue that they're like, hey, write your representative, she's giving you already filled out templates. All you have to do is just go in and put your name in
Yeah.
and attach your name to this. So just like I said, very practical solutions that are very helpful if you're someone who cares, but you don't want to be overwhelmed by all of this, this political stuff. Everybody's got real lives to live. And it's understandable, but yeah, just finding practical ways to get involved. And that's kind of her specialty. So follow her if you can at Jess Craven 101. Well, I want to ask you, Jess, one of the main questions I want to ask is we both exist. You do much more pointed political I don't want to say commentary, but more so, what would you call yourself? You just said content creator, but you're more of
Activist,
a,
content creator. Yeah.
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. And
Talking head.
yeah, when I, when I attempt to plug into the degree that you do, I think I get a little bit overwhelmed. It's just not necessarily my specialty to be out there every day or every other day. This is the issue at hand. This thing happened in Congress and, call your congressperson. You do very specific activism online, which is one of the reasons that I really enjoy following you because you do something very different from what I do. I like sort of the big picture. We're going to contextualize all of this. What is the moment in time? I'm doing breakdowns on Germany and authoritarianism and how does this
Right.
all tie in? What's the historical context? And that's the kind of thing that I enjoy more so. But I think for all of us, whatever our approach is, those of us who do this type of content online, last year's election was quite a blow. And because you are just so in the thick of it every day, I remember observing, just kind of watching your process. We were all just sort of devastated. Those of us who were progressive political commentators, we were all, we were dealt a pretty heavy blow when
Yeah.
Kamala Harris lost the election. I kind of want to know from your perspective how you because there were a few days where we just didn't see you. We did
Yeah.
not hear from you. And I thought, is she going to be okay? I was actually really very concerned. And I kind of want to know how you dealt with that. How did you deal with the devastation of that loss? How did you find a way to sort of pick yourself up and move forward after, being dealt such a heavy blow?
That's such a really great question. I mean, well, I'll tell you, I went to North Carolina to canvass for Kamala Harris, who I was certain was going to win. I mean, there was
Yeah.
no question in my mind.
Yeah.
I had 4 really incredible days canvassing for her, beautiful days. I went to a rally that she held. And when she lost, when we realized what had happened, obviously like the worst 24 hours maybe of my life, with the
Mm.
exception of the first time Trump won. I had a flight home that day, the day after the election, and I cried my eyes out the whole flight home. And
Mm.
I'm not embarrassed about my emotions. We all have emotions. I cried my eyes out.
Mhm.
And then I took a week. I could not get back online. I was so angry, honestly, at the country. My first feeling was just why bother trying to help? Like, why bother if this is what people do? A lot of rage, a lot of fear, because I had read Project 2025. I was extremely clear on what was going to happen. It sounds really cheesy to say this, but this is a true story. So my very last door knock of the Kamala Harris campaign was an elderly gentleman in whatever suburb of Charlotte I was in. Uh, a guy who was actually staying at his cousin's house. He wasn't even the person I was supposed to be knocking on his door. And to make a long story short, he had disability. He was broke. He was on basically every social program just to keep himself going. He wanted desperately to vote, but could not get to the polls. And so I decided to cut off my canvas an hour early because it was an hour till polls closed. And I drove him to the polls. And
Mm.
we had the most lovely connection. It was a deeply moving, wonderful thing. And this guy who had nothing, honestly, I thought about him after the election because he and I were both so excited. He was a black man. He was so excited for Kamala Harris to win, this black woman. He was so thrilled to get to vote for her. And after the election, he sent me a text to make sure that I was okay. So
Wow.
he and I texted back and forth a couple of times. And when I started to think about, like, forget it, I'm walking, like, I'll find something else to do. This country doesn't deserve that, whatever. I thought about him. And I think about him a lot. I think that guy was reliant on Medicaid. He was reliant on SNAP. He was reliant on every public service. And I am not going to give up when people like him are out there who legitimately need every single program that is under attack right now.
Mm.
And so we have so many people in this country suffering. And I have to change my thinking from like, why I am so sad to like, look, I got it pretty good. I'm in a position of privilege, especially as a white woman. I have to use that right now
Mm.
because people are literally under attack, and the most vulnerable communities need us to be strong right now.
Yeah.
And that is how, after a week of kind of, whatever, reading a lot and hanging out with my family, I came back on and just said, okay, we got to do this. And I think about him all the time. I think about everybody who is being harmed in this moment. And I know that it is not the right thing to sit it out.
Yeah.
It is the right thing to fight. Whether or not I know that we're going to win, I believe we will, but it doesn't even matter. It is the right thing to do to fight in this moment. And so that's what I'm trying to do.
Well, I'm so glad that you were out here fighting. And even from a distance, I was pulling on your strength and I was sending you strength along with all of the other creators that I follow who were kind of out there in the fight. and a million other people who were following along and just watching us in the fight. We have to remember that we are actually greater in numbers than, as you said, these oligarchs, these billionaires that want to wrest control of our democracy, and ultimately we are responsible for staving off this lurch towards attempting to take this away from us. This is ours. This is ours to
Yeah.
preserve, and we cannot afford to sit it out. We can't afford to become complacent. We can't afford to say that it doesn't matter, or make false equivalencies and say that all sides are the same. We know that all sides have problems, but both sides are not the same. And we can't afford to have, that kind of lazy thinking at a time like this. So thank you for helping us to stay engaged and to understand how even our small actions can affect change and can actually change the course of history. I believe that we can do that really with the combined effort of all of us. It's not on any one person, which is the beautiful thing. So thank you for reminding us of our strength and of our power, Jess Craven. We really appreciate the work you're doing.
Well, Dara, thank you so much for having me. And we do have so much power. And I will just close by saying, remember that every great social change in this country has been brought about by people, by just regular people, very often Black Americans, but by movements who had it really, frankly, way worse than we do right now, and
Hmm.
who just said, we are not going to give up. We are
Yeah.
not going to give up. We can all be inspired by the civil rights movement. We should be inspired. We stand on the shoulders of giants.
Hmm.
And so, as I remind people all the time, it is our turn to be the giants.
Yeah.
Even if we don't feel like a giant, they probably didn't either.
Yeah.
They were just doing the next indicated action. We stand on their shoulders, and someday someone will be standing on ours
Yeah.
if we keep this fight up. And so, I urge everybody to do so. And I thank you all for what you are doing and what you will do. And you, Dara, as well, obviously.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jess, for being here with us on the front page. Once again, we have been talking to Ms. Jess Craven, who is a political commentator. Chop Wood, Carry Water, I believe is the name of her
Yeah.
Substack you can sign up for. The Practivist Pod is her podcast, and you can follow her online on all social media platforms at Jess Craven 101. That's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, anywhere where you follow the other content creators that you like. Make sure to follow Jess Craven. Thank you so much once again for being with us, Jess Craven, this morning.
Thank you. Thank
We
you for
enjoyed
having me.
having
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Okay.